Good afternoon. My name is Barry Baker Jr., and welcome to this edition of Channel 96 News.
When I first got to Texas Penitentiary, the first thing they do is they strip you naked and search you. As I was standing in line to get my boots, I noticed the guy in front of me. I counted 13 stab wounds in his back.
At just 32 years old, life as Michael Morton knew it was over. His wife, gone. His family, gone. His dreams, gone. He was now a murderer, and his reality was prison. His new life goal, to survive.
I am probably the personification of that old axiom, remember from school, about you can't prove a negative. It's just how do you prove you didn't do something?
Morton was trying to prove he didn't beat his wife Christine to death on August 13, 1986. There was no evidence placing him at the crime scene and no murder weapon. His 3-year-old son who witnessed the murder even told police, "Daddy didn't do it." But that statement and other details excluding Morton didn't come out until years later, while he remained locked up. How rough was it inside?
I never liked it, but I got used to it.
How long did it take you?
Probably 14 or 15 years.
14 or 15 years.
To get where I was used to it.
Are the first years the hardest?
The first years are hard just because it's a shock and it's new and it's constant adjustment, constant recalibrations.
Morton says life behind bars began to take away his sense of self. What he missed most was his son, Eric, who was growing up without him. What did your son mean to you? Not just as a son. Mm-hmm. He had to represent things to you, or ideas, over the course of this journey.
Yeah, my son, for me, he ended up being more than just my child. As I began losing pieces of my self, my reputation, my assets, most of my friends, as those things diminish, my son's importance rose, just, if nothing else, supply and demand.
And how were those visits?
To me, it was this, I'm a starving man looking at some food on the other side, and I'm just eating it up, and it's great, and it's wonderful. I've since found out, well, he's looking at me as this guy that really doesn't exist in his life, somebody he just sees once in a while.
As he started to grow up and wanted distance, how did you deal with that, and what ultimately did it lead to?
He suspended the visits, and eventually when I found out that he had changed his name legally and been adopted, few things are as powerful to a parent as the abject rejection of their child.
Morton always maintained his innocence, and on the outside, his attorneys hadn't given up on his case.
I don't keep the files of all the cases I've tried. I kept Michael's file. Michael's case was different, and on almost every level, particularly an emotional level with me.
I cross-examine people for a living. I have a pretty good sense of when somebody's lying to me. Not always, but most of the time. There was nothing about this man that didn't speak to actual innocence.
Finally, in 2004, progress. Attorneys for the Innocence Project began working with Morton, and they thought they had a chance. You say, I always thought that I would get out. What fueled the hope?
It's difficult for me to say whether it was just faith that I knew I was right and I wasn't guilty, that this would work out, or just that I didn't know how deep I was in.
Then came the breakthrough, a request for DNA testing on a piece of evidence that would eventually unravel the case against Morton. The existence of the bandana, what could be on the bandana, what the bandana meant. What was that in your life?
That bandana, in hindsight, was huge. Everything turned on that little square piece of cloth. It's only a big deal when you can step back and look at the whole picture and fight the impulse to say, oh my God, there it is.
In 1987, a Texas man was convicted of murdering his wife. He spent the next 25 years behind bars, cut off from the world. Eventually losing contact with his son, finally, the DNA evidence proved what Morton had claimed all along. He was innocent. Chris Kuma has a story. Morton's story is the subject of a new CNN film called An Unreal Dream that airs Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific Time. A Georgia police officer and his colleague have been suspended after they used foul language to discipline some rowdy students. Local police chief said he usually keeps things like this under wraps, but says he feels the community needed to know what happened. Alyssa Sperato has the details. Guerrero and Collins have been assigned to complete 40 hours of community service. They will also complete additional training on verbal communication.
Can't focus on what she's doing? What if she flips the bus over? Or hits somebody? You think it's funny?
The voice you're hearing is Officer John Guerreri. Along with veteran officer Stephen Collins, he was dispatched to Glenwood Avenue. That's where a bus driver called 911, saying more than 50 kids on her bus were out of control, and she couldn't focus on driving safely.
All in the back understand what's happening? Say, the Dalton police is coming out here.
When Officer Guerreri arrives, it's what he says that got him suspended, not how he says it.
Hide in your face. Yeah. Look at me like a man. You want to grow up and be a man? Look at me like a man. You got no tolerance for this because she expects more out of 12, 13, 14-year-olds.
Throughout the incident, Guerreri ultimately stayed calm.
You want to act like crazy? Do it at home.
Meanwhile, outside, investigators say Officer Collins is swearing at another student that Guerreri pulled outside. That part is not caught on the tape. Shortly after, Dalton Police Chief Jason Parker says he got a call from a parent who was outraged.
Well, I was very surprised to hear about this. Certainly, we don't expect this kind of behavior from our officers, and I wanted to see what the facts were, and we found out the facts and found out that they matched pretty much what the person who complained said.
And the news is spreading like wildfire across Whitfield County.
It's ridiculous. It's uncalled for, really. And I'm in college now, going to be in the police force. But as for me, it's just uncalled for.
It's not right. It's just not right for no child, especially middle age, any child, to be cussed by a parent, let alone a law officer or anything else.
Answers could be coming soon in the crash that killed Fast and Furious star Paul Walker. We may know for certain whether Walker or friend Roger Rodas was behind the wheel of a Porsche Carrera GT when it crashed into a light pole and went up in flames. Surveillance video shows a tree falling over from the impact. The fire doesn't start for about a minute or so, according to the video. It burns with a fury, consuming the car and burning the occupants behind recognition. Rodas and Walker were car buffs and racing teammates. The Carrera GT, though not a race car as such, is the closest you can get to one, and it can still be street legal. It's got more power than some races, as Kuwait Live found out.
Riding in a Porsche Carrera GT is simply visceral. We're so low to the ground. I'm at once exhilarated and carsick. It's like flying on the road, and it is terrifying, but strangely fun.
So we're going out for a bit of a joyride.
I'm the lucky passenger in Michael Weinreb's Porsche. He's an attorney by day, amateur driver by night, one of the few owners of the nearly 1,300 2005 Carrera GTs ever made.
It's more the 0 to 100 time that's more impressive, which is under 7 seconds. The steering on this car is so tight and responsive. There's almost nothing like it in terms of road feel.
Top speed 208 miles per hour. Weinreb's supercar has been souped up from 612 horsepower to 660.
Is it easy to do something stupid?
You know, it is, because it's just having so much power under your foot that, that things can happen. There can be a loss of control.
Weinreb doesn't know what happened in actor Paul Walker's car crash, but being the owner of the exact same vehicle, he guesses it might be this. A cold car, cold tires, not racetrack conditions. A supercar pushed too hard.
In some respects, are you afraid of this car?
Yeah, you really have to be with this car with all the power it has. You have to be reserved and restrain yourself. I mean, it's like kind of taming a wild animal, and so if you were taming a wild animal, you'd be afraid of it. And so you have to be afraid of it to really be safe in the car.
For the legal team representing Vanderbilt football player Brandon Vandenberg, player's attorney Fletcher Long was taken to jail after being served with a harassment warrant. The person who claims she was harassed is a former spokeswoman for the city of Clarksville. Jeremy Finland reports.
His high-profile clients often have mug shots, but now Fletcher Long has one of his own. Long left jail late this afternoon after being served with a harassment warrant. The person who swore out the warrant and was granted an order of protection for her and her 7-year-old son, Christy Overstreet Hill, the former spokeswoman for the city of Clarksville. Her LinkedIn profile shows she was the director of operations for Long's law firm. In the order of protection, she claims Long was stalking her and was driving by her house in the early morning. Hill confirms to the Channel 4i team that she received these text messages from Fletcher Long's phone number, reading in part, "Fair warning, if you are thinking about blackmailing me, think about your 7-year-old kid first." Hill responds, "Is that a threat?" Hill says the text from Long's phone, "It's more than a threat, little girl. I am Fletcher Mother Bleep Long for a reason. You do not want to go to war with me." Hill responds, "Do not contact me again." The text from Long's phone, "Who the blank do you think you are? You do not tell me what to do or talk to me like I am your N-word. You have been my N-word, and do not forget it." Long's attorney denies that his client sent those messages. Also, the Channel 4i team has confirmed this, that one of Long's former employees, Anita Jarman, quit the firm last December and successfully fought for unemployment benefits in May, and claimed that employees were subjected to sexual comments and innuendo on a daily basis, as well as requests for sexual favors. The state wrote the managing attorney, Long, admitted to using racial slurs in reference to employees. Long had no comment for the Channel 4i team, but told the Leaf Chronicle newspaper about Hill, quote, "This is a disgruntled employee who was terminated from our office. She has an axe to grind, and she's grinding it. She wants her 15 minutes of fame."
This isn't the first time that Long has gone through the criminal justice system himself. 2 years ago, he was charged with filing a false insurance claim, but was found not guilty. In just a few weeks, recreational marijuana use will be legal in Colorado for anyone over the age of 21. Marijuana producers in the state are preparing for potentially big business. Miguel Marquez reports.
This is our vegetative growth room.
Andy Williams is out to become captain of the country's newest growth industry, Colorado's legal recreational pot business.
It is a factory of pot. It is a factory of pot. It certainly is.
His medicine man will be selling to users up to an ounce for Colorado residents, a quarter ounce for out-of-staters. Anyone over 21 can buy starting January 1. Industry watchers say it will be the first time ever anywhere in the world marijuana has been regulated from seed to sale, an experiment making Colorado a sort of Silicon Valley for pot.
It appears that you guys are already bulking up. We are. In preparation for what happens January 1.
Every one of my competitors is doing the same thing.
And how much new business does Medicine Man expect?
This is the future.
This is the future of Medicine Man.
This is
it.
Oh my.
Planned is a state-of-the-art facility, so advanced, they're expecting tourists.
Yeah, and this is not enough to meet demand next year. We need to expand more.
He'd like to triple his supply, and he's not the only one.
This is the new world. What is this?
This is the sort of the future.
It's an industry expected to grow from just over $1 billion nationwide today to over $10 billion by 2018. Companies here sinking millions figuring out how to consume pot in new ways. Open Vape extracts oil from marijuana and sells a sort of e-cigarette, giving the user an exact dose and producing almost no smoke.
We grew 1,600% in 2013.
1,600%.
1,600%. We'll do another 600% in revenue growth next year.
Open Vape expects to double its workforce in 2014, its brand spanking new offices taking a page from the .com book.
You know, there are a lot of stereotypes. You think it's a bunch of guys sitting around smoking pot in their offices. It's not like that. This is real business. I mean, we are building a culture of excellence around cannabis.
Open Vape 2 has expansion plans, a 160,000 square foot showcase facility on Colorado's Cannabis Corridor, aka Interstate 25, complete with a cannabis museum and gift shop.
Contracts being signed, money's changing hands.
Contracts are happening, money is changing hands, yes.
Taxes on sales of recreational marijuana products, everything from the smokable stuff to chocolates and soda, expected to generate tens of millions in revenue for the state. It's already creating jobs.
Is there anybody here with an appointment?
Every morning, Colorado's Marijuana Enforcement Division jammed with people just hoping to get their licenses to work in the new industry. The agency is overwhelmed with applications. Every aspect regulated. Possession of an ounce or less legal anywhere within the state's borders. Most places, though, all those counties you see there in red still either ban or haven't yet decided if they'll allow pot sales. For many here, it is still baby steps.
What we're hoping is that we can provide a model for that for other states as they elect to move forward with their own marijuana policy.
The Colorado experiment taking root. The Denver Post has hired a recreational marijuana editor, and Matt Brown, who runs My 420 Tour, says non-Coloradans are excited to experience the new Rocky Mountain High.
We anticipate just through our firm easily 2,000 to 3,000 people next year on our guided tours, which are all-inclusive multi-day packages.
Even cannabis cooking classes. Chef Blaine Alexander, who teaches some cannabis classes today, sees more.
Can you see a day when there's a restaurant, Blaine's?
Sure.
And
Alexander's, but yes.
Alexander's, all right, fine.
No, of course, I would love that. I mean, that's always been my goal.
A goal that here in Colorado could soon be reality. Miguel Marquez, CNN, Denver.
This middle school is under fire after students say they were banned from speaking Spanish in class. Students say their principal announced the rule last month over the intercom. Drew Carradis reports.
Inside the walls of Hempstead Middle School, a language controversy is brewing.
There's this one teacher that she told us, if you speak Spanish in my class, I'm gonna write you up.
These 4 students say their principal's attempt to ban them from speaking Spanish in class has given teachers and fellow students a hall pass to discriminate.
She's like, no speak Spanish. She told me like that. I was like, that's my first language. She's like, well, you can get out.
A letter sent home by the superintendent says neither the district or any campus has any policy prohibiting the speaking of Spanish. These students feel that has not been made entirely clear at this school.
People don't want to speak it no more and don't want to get caught speaking it because they're going to get in trouble.
Parents like Cynthia Zamora believe the school is not getting to the root of the problem. She wants to know why the no Spanish announcement was ever made in the first place.
I was very, very surprised that she would even go to that level.
Especially considering about 50% of the students enrolled at this school are Hispanic.
It's wrong for them to do that. Like, it's wrong for them to tell us not to speak Spanish at our school.
These classmates grew up speaking Spanish at home, and they say it often comes as second nature when they're talking to each other at school.
I'm not scared because I'm going to keep on speaking my language. I mean, that's my first language, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
The principal has been placed on administrative leave while the district investigates. Spokeswoman for Hempstead released a statement saying, in part, the district is committed to efficiently and effectively resolving this matter with the New York City Commission on Human Rights issued a subpoena to Macy's Incorporated last week, demanding that the retailer share details of its controversial theft prevention tactics. Subpoena gives Macy's until December the 10th to comply. Barney's and Macy's are at the heart of a national racial profiling scandal that made headlines in October. Macy's has already fulfilled the Commission's request, Gatling, the commissioner and chair of the NYC Commission on Human Rights, says it is disappointing that Barney's has not fully cooperated in the investigation. Gatling says the commission will be issuing subpoenas to other stores that have been unresponsive, including Old Navy and Banana Republic. Mobile devices made this Cyber Monday the biggest online shopping day in history. The words from IBM, who also says the sales jumped 20.6% from 2012 to 2013. They made sales on mobile devices that made up 17% of the day's total sales, with more people using smartphones than tablets. It is in stark contrast to Black Friday sales, which fell 13.2% from last year. But analysts say that's partly because retailers opened their stores on Thanksgiving that Thursday before Black Friday. Voiceover. 911 calls from the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting last December will be released on Wednesday. 911 calls from the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting last December will be released on Wednesday at 2 p.m. State Attorney Stephen Sindinsky has fought to keep the calls from being released. He said Monday he will not appeal a judge's decision to make them public. The massacre in Newtown, Connecticut was the second deadliest shooting in U.S. history. People were killed, including 20 children. The gunman, Adam Lanza, shot himself at the end of his 11-minute rampage. Voiceover. Sony's newest video game console is tearing up sales records. PlayStation 4 sold more than 2 million units worldwide as of December the 1st. According to the electronics giant, just 2 weeks after it launched,